The assault on New Terra was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. 50 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, each one precisely positioned to maximize firepower while minimizing civilian casualties. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted after his success at Haven, stood on the bridge of his new flagship and watched the Vorzan defensive fleet scramble to respond. 1 year had passed since the first attacks, 1 year of war that had transformed humanity from peaceful explorers into a military force that made even the Vorzan's allies nervous. The humans had liberated 3 colonies, destroyed dozens of Vorzan fleets, and pushed the offensive deep into Vorzan space. Now they were here for the final blow. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorzan fleet," Lieutenant Amy Chen reported. She was a full commander now, promoted through a year of constant combat. "They're requesting negotiations." "Ignore it," Jake said coldly. "They had their chance for negotiations. They chose war instead. Launch all fighters. Begin the assault." But before the order could be executed, another voice cut through the communications. "Admiral Morrison, this is President Dalton." "Hold your position." Jake blinked in surprise. "Mr. President, I wasn't aware you were monitoring this operation." "I'm monitoring all operations now," Eric replied. His face appeared on the screen, and Jake was shocked by how much the president had aged in 1 year. His hair was completely white now, and lines of stress marked his face. "Admiral, I'm ordering you to accept the Vorzan request for negotiations." "Sir, with respect, they're stalling, buying time to reinforce their positions." "I know what they're doing, Admiral, but we're not going to turn down a chance for them to surrender." "That's not who we are," Jake wanted to argue. Part of him, the part that had seen too many friends die in this war, wanted to keep fighting until the Vorzan were broken completely. But Eric was right. They had to be better than their enemies. "Yes, Mr. President. We'll hold position and hear what they have to say." High Commander Zelthrak appeared on the screen moments later. The proud, confident alien who had ordered the attacks 1 year ago was gone. In his place was a being who looked defeated and desperate. His blue skin had lost its luster, and his large eyes darted nervously. "President Dalton, Admiral Morrison, I am authorized by the Vorzan Council to offer terms of surrender." "You're offering us terms?" Jake couldn't keep the bitterness from his voice. "You attacked our colonies without warning. You killed 40,000 civilians. And now you want to negotiate terms?" "We underestimated you," Zelthrak said quietly. "We thought you were weak. We were wrong. You have proven that humans are formidable. If this war continues, both our species will suffer terrible losses. The Council wishes to end this conflict." President Dalton leaned forward. "What are you offering?" "Complete withdrawal from all human territories, return of all prisoners, reparations for damages, and recognition of human sovereignty over all systems you currently claim." It was everything humanity had demanded, everything they had fought for. But Jake found himself suspicious. "And what do you want in return?" Zelthrak hesitated. "Mercy. We ask that you show mercy, that you do not do to our worlds what we did to yours." There it was. The Vorzan weren't just surrendering because they were losing. They were surrendering because they were afraid. Afraid that humanity would take revenge, that humans would do to Vorzan colonies what the Vorzan had done to human colonies. "Give us 1 hour to discuss this," Eric said. "Then we'll give you our answer." The transmission ended. Eric looked at Jake through the screen. "Your thoughts, Admiral?" "I think they're terrified," Jake said. "And they should be. But I also think this is genuine. They want out of this war, and they're willing to give us everything to get it." "General Grant, what's your assessment?" Eric asked, and Ashley Grant's face appeared in another window. "Sir, our intelligence suggests the Vorzan Council is fractured," Ashley reported. "Some want to keep fighting, but most recognize they can't win. If we accept this surrender, we end the war now. If we push forward, we might win eventually, but it will cost thousands more human lives." "Ambassador Warren," Eric called, and Nicole's face joined the conference. She looked different too, older and harder. "Your opinion?" "Mr. President, I spent my whole career believing in peace," Nicole said carefully. "I was wrong about the Vorzan, and that mistake cost thousands of lives. But I still believe that mercy is strength, not weakness. If we show mercy now, we prove that humans are better than the Vorzan, that we fight only when necessary, not because we enjoy it." Eric nodded slowly. "Admiral Morrison, you're the one who's been fighting this war from the beginning. You've earned the right to decide this. What do you think we should do?" Jake looked at his bridge crew, seeing the faces of men and women who had lost friends, who had seen horrors that would haunt them forever. They deserved justice. The colonists who had died deserved justice. But did justice mean extermination? Did winning mean becoming the same monsters that the Vorzan had been? "I think we accept their surrender," Jake said finally. "But with conditions. Full surrender, no negotiation on terms. War crimes trials for every Vorzan officer who targeted civilians. Permanent monitoring of their military to ensure they never threaten anyone again. And a public acknowledgement of what they did so every species in the galaxy knows what happened here." "And if they refuse those terms?" Eric asked. "Then we continue the assault," Jake said coldly, "and we don't stop until they have no choice but to accept." The hour passed quickly. When Zelthrak appeared again, his face showed resignation. He had probably expected much worse. "Hi, Commander," Eric said formally. "Humanity accepts your surrender, with the following conditions." As Eric laid out the terms, Zelthrak's expression moved from resignation to surprise. He had expected vengeance, destruction. Instead, he was getting justice and mercy. When Eric finished, there was a long silence. "These terms are acceptable," Zelthrak said quietly. "The Council will agree. I will personally ensure compliance." "One more thing," Jake added. "You wanted to know what humanity is capable of. You saw us at war. Now you'll see us at peace. But never forget what happened here. Never forget that we tried friendship first and you chose violence. If you or any other species ever threatens humanity again, we will respond the same way. Swiftly, decisively, and without mercy." Zelthrak's head bowed. "Understood, Admiral. We will not forget." The war ended not with a final battle, but with signatures on a document. The Treaty of New Terra was signed aboard Jake's flagship, with representatives from humanity, the Vorzan Collective, and, surprisingly, 3 other alien species who had been watching the war with growing concern. Ambassador Nicole Warren handled most of the negotiations, showing the diplomatic skills that had made her humanity's representative in the first place. But now those skills were tempered by hard-earned wisdom. She no longer assumed the best of everyone. She verified everything. She planned for betrayal while hoping for peace. The treaty was comprehensive. The Vorzan would withdraw from all human territories immediately. They would return all prisoners living and dead for proper burial or reunion. They would pay reparations, not just in resources but in technology sharing. And they would submit to UN oversight of their military for the next 50 years. But the most important part of the treaty wasn't written in the document. It was written in the memories of everyone who had witnessed the war. The galaxy had learned a lesson about humanity. They preferred peace. They believed in cooperation. But when threatened, they became something terrifying. 6 months after the treaty was signed, Jake Morrison found himself on New Terra for the dedication of a memorial. The colony had been rebuilt stronger than before. The scars of war were still visible, but life was returning. Children played in streets that had been battlefields. Farmers worked in fields that had been burned. Governor Lisa Hayes stood beside him at the memorial ceremony. She had survived the occupation, leading the resistance until liberation came. Now she was overseeing the rebuilding, turning New Terra into a symbol of human resilience. "It's strange," Lisa said quietly. "A year ago I thought we were going to die here. Now look at it. Life goes on. Life always goes on," Jake replied. "That's what makes humans dangerous. We don't give up. We don't break. We just keep going." The memorial was simple. A wall of black stone with 40,000 names carved into it. The names of everyone who had died in the attacks. At the top was an inscription that Jake had suggested and President Dalton had approved. They tried peace first. It was a reminder and a warning. To humans it said, "Remember what it cost when we trusted too easily." To other species it said, "Remember what happens when you betray that trust." It was the perfect summary of the lesson humanity had learned. President Eric Dalton gave a speech at the memorial, broadcast across all human space and to alien worlds that were now watching humanity with wary respect. "We came to the stars hoping to find friends," Eric said, his voice steady but sad. "We found enemies instead. But we also found something else. We found the strength we didn't know we had. We found unity in the face of extinction. We found that humans, when threatened, can become unstoppable." He paused, looking at the names on the memorial. "These 40,000 people died because we believed too much in peace. They died because we assumed the best of..." The warship Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Haven system, and Captain Jake Morrison felt his breath catch. He had seen the intelligence reports. He had studied the tactical data, but nothing prepared him for seeing an occupied human colony with his own eyes. Haven's orbital space was filled with Vorzan warships, easily 50 of them surrounding the planet like predators circling wounded prey. On the planet's surface, fires still burned in what had been thriving human cities. Jake's hands tightened on the armrests of his command chair. 3 months had passed since the attacks. 3 months of desperate preparation, of training crews for combat, of installing weapons that had been designed but never tested in real conditions. 3 months of waiting for the people trapped on those colonies, hoping their military would come. Now it was time to prove that hope wasn't misplaced. "Captain, we're receiving multiple target locks," Lieutenant Amy Chen reported from Tactical. She had changed in the past 3 months, her youthful enthusiasm replaced by hard-edged focus. They had all changed. "The Vorzan know we're here." "Good," Jake said. "I want them paying attention. Commander Ross, launch the first wave." Commander Tyler Ross sat in the flight control center of the Retribution, watching his pilots prepare for launch. He was 32 years old, a fighter pilot who had been flying exploration escorts 3 months ago. Now he commanded a wing of combat fighters equipped with weapons that could kill. His pilots were scared. He was scared, but fear didn't matter anymore. "All fighters, this is Commander Ross, you know the mission. Hit their supply ships, avoid direct engagement with their capital vessels, and get out fast. We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to bleed them." "Questions?" "No, sir," his pilots responded in unison. "Then let's show these aliens why you don't mess with humans. Launch." 40 fighters streamed from the Retribution's bays, small and fast, darting toward the Vorzan fleet like angry hornets. The Vorzan responded immediately, their large warships turning ponderously to engage. But the fighters weren't targeting the warships. They split into groups, each targeting the slower, less defended supply vessels that fed the Vorzan occupation. Tyler led Alpha Group personally, his fighters screaming through space at speeds that would have killed him without the inertial dampeners. His targeting computer locked onto a Vorzan supply ship and he fired. The new plasma cannons that Dr. Megan Torres had designed tore through the Vorzan shields like they weren't there. The supply ship exploded in a ball of fire. "Alpha 3, you've got 2 fighters on your tail," Tyler called out. "I see them, sir." Breaking left. The battle became a chaotic dance of thrust and fire. The Vorzan fighters were well-designed and their pilots skilled, but they flew in formation, following established tactical doctrine. Human pilots, desperate and angry, fought like maniacs. They broke every rule of engagement, pulled maneuvers that should have been impossible, and took risks that no sane person would attempt. And it worked. One by one, Vorzan supply ships died. The Vorzan fleet, designed to dominate through superior firepower and numbers, found itself fighting an enemy that refused to stand still long enough to be hit. Fighters would appear, strike, and vanish before the heavy weapons could track them. "All fighters, this is Ross. Primary objectives complete. Return to the Retribution." As his wing pulled back, Tyler checked the tactical display. They had destroyed or disabled 8 supply ships. More importantly, they had proven something. The Vorzan could be hurt, they could bleed, and they could die. But the Retribution wasn't alone. As Tyler's fighters returned, 12 more human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel around the system, appearing at random points that made it impossible for the Vorzan to defend everything at once. Each ship launched its own fighters and began targeting different parts of the Vorzan occupation force. High Commander Zelthrak watched the tactical display aboard his flagship with growing concern. When the humans had broadcast their defiant message 3 months ago, he had dismissed it as empty posturing. Humans were a primitive species, barely capable of interstellar travel with weapons that couldn't penetrate Vorzan shields. They should have surrendered. Instead, they had done something unexpected. They had learned. The human ships now carried weapons that bypassed energy shields, targeting hull integrity directly. Their fighters moved in patterns that the Vorzan combat computers couldn't predict, and their tactics were unlike anything in the Vorzan database. They didn't fight to win honorable victory. They fought to cause maximum damage with minimum risk. It was effective. Worryingly effective. "Commander, we're losing supplies faster than we can bring them in." his logistics officer reported. If this continues, we won't be able to sustain the occupation forces on the surface. Then stop it from continuing, Zelthrak snapped. We have 50 ships. They have a dozen. Destroy them. But destroying the human ships proved harder than expected. Every time the Vorzan fleet moved to engage one group, another group would strike somewhere else. It was like fighting smoke. And then things got worse. Commander, we're detecting massive energy signatures, the sensor officer reported, alarm clear in their voice. Something is approaching. Multiple signatures. Thousands of them. On the Retribution's bridge, Jake Morrison smiled grimly as the Hellstorm protocol activated. 5,000 small drones, each barely larger than a fighter, each carrying kinetic weapons and explosives, emerged from faster-than-light travel. They moved with perfect coordination, guided by AI systems that could process tactical data faster than any biological mind. The drones swarmed the Vorzan fleet like a wave of metal locusts. The Vorzan fired desperately, destroying hundreds of drones, but for every one they killed, 10 more got through. The drones didn't try to fight fair. They targeted engines, weapon systems, sensors. They latched onto hull plating and detonated, tearing holes in ships that had been considered invincible. Sir, the Vorzan fleet is breaking formation, Amy reported. They're trying to scatter. Don't let them, Jake ordered. All ships close in. Hit them while they're disorganized. What followed wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. The Vorzan fleet, designed for overwhelming displays of force against inferior enemies, found itself outmaneuvered and outfought by an enemy that had turned desperation into deadly efficiency. Ship after ship died, torn apart by weapons that shouldn't have existed, by tactics that shouldn't have worked, by an enemy that refused to follow any known rules of warfare. On Haven's surface, Colonel Ryan Mitchell led the ground assault. He had survived the initial attacks by sheer luck, commanding resistance forces that had been fighting a guerrilla war for 3 months. When human dropships began landing, bringing reinforcements and heavy weapons, he almost couldn't believe it. Colonel, good to see you're still alive, a Marine captain said, clasping Ryan's hand. Good to be alive, Ryan replied. His uniform was torn and dirty, his face gaunt from months of stress. The Vorzan occupation forces are concentrated around the 3 main cities. They've been using civilian hostages as shields. Not anymore, the captain said grimly. We've got orders to liberate those hostages no matter the cost. The assault on the Vorzan ground forces was brutal and precise. Human Marines trained for years in urban combat used tactics the Vorzan couldn't counter. They moved through buildings like ghosts, appearing from unexpected directions, using the terrain in ways the Vorzan, used to open battlefield engagements, hadn't anticipated. But it was the civilian population that made the difference. For 3 months they had been living under occupation, terrified and helpless. Now they rose up. Every Vorzan patrol suddenly found itself facing not just Marines, but ordinary humans with improvised weapons. Teachers and farmers and doctors who had lost friends and family to the occupation fought with a fury that shocked their captors. Governor Lisa Hayes, who had been leading the civilian resistance from hidden bases, coordinated the uprising with military precision. She was tired, scarred, and had lost weight from months of poor rations, but her eyes burned with determination. All resistance cells, this is Hayes, she broadcast on encrypted channels. The Marines are here. It's time to take back our homes. Hit every Vorzan position you can. Show them what happens when you mess with humanity. The response was overwhelming. Vorzan soldiers found themselves under attack from every direction. Their advanced weapons and armor meant nothing when facing enemies who knew every street, every building, every hiding place. Civilians who had seemed helpless revealed caches of weapons they had been slowly gathering for months. In orbit, the battle was ending. Of the 50 Vorzan ships that had occupied Haven, only 12 remained, and they were retreating, engines damaged, shields failing. The Hellstorm drones pursued relentlessly, and human warships cut off escape routes with brutal efficiency. Sir, the Vorzan flagship is hailing us, Amy reported. Jake leaned forward. Put it through. High Commander Zelthrak appeared on the screen. His blue skin had paled and his large eyes showed what might have been fear. When he spoke, the translation came through strained and broken. We surrender, please. We surrender. Jake felt no triumph, only cold satisfaction. Tell your ground forces to lay. The courier ship arrived at Earth 5 days after the attacks began. 5 days of silence from the outer colonies. 5 days of hope turning to dread as every attempt at communication failed. When the small vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Mars, broadcasting emergency codes, every military installation in the solar system went on immediate alert. President Eric Dalton was in a meeting when the news reached him. He was a man of 60 years with silver hair and a face lined by the weight of leadership. He had been president for 8 years, navigating humanity through the challenges of rapid space expansion, and he had always believed that diplomacy would be humanity's greatest strength. That belief died when his chief of staff entered the room with an expression of barely controlled horror. "Mr. President, we need you in the Situation Room immediately." The Situation Room beneath the presidential complex was filled with military and civilian leaders when Eric arrived. Fleet Admiral Ben Carter stood at the center, his face carved from stone as he watched footage on the main display. Eric's breath caught in his throat as he saw what was playing. The images were from New Terra. Civilian landing pads torn apart by weapons fire. Buildings burning. Bodies in the streets. The footage shook as whoever was recording ran for cover and then it cut to static. "How bad?" Eric asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "All 4 outer colonies attacked simultaneously," Admiral Carter said. "New Terra, Haven, Prosperity, and Freedom Point. Combined population of approximately 160,000. Early estimates suggest 40,000 dead in the first wave. Communication is cut off. We have no current data on the situation." Eric felt the room spin. 40,000. In the first wave. He gripped the edge of the table to steady himself. "What do we know about the enemy's capabilities?" he asked, forcing his mind to work through the shock. General Ashley Grant stepped forward. She was a tall woman with dark skin and short hair, commander of Earth's defense forces. Her reputation was built on being uncompromising and brilliant. "The Vorzon fleet outnumbers our forces in the outer sectors by approximately 10 to 1. Their weapons technology is at least a generation ahead of ours. They have energy shields that our current weapons can barely scratch, and they clearly have no interest in negotiating." "Where is Ambassador Warren?" Eric asked. "On her way here, sir," his chief of staff replied. "She's taking it hard." Eric nodded slowly. He didn't blame Nicole. She had believed in peace. They all had. But belief didn't stop plasma fire. Faith didn't save colonies. "Show me what we have," Eric ordered. "Every ship, every weapon, every asset. I want to know what we're working with." What followed was 2 hours of tactical analysis. The news was grim. Humanity's fleet had been designed for exploration and light defense, not all-out war. Most ships were scientific vessels with minimal weapons. The colonies had been protected by small patrol craft that couldn't stand against a military fleet. Earth itself was well defended, but sending that defense fleet to the outer colonies would leave humanity's home vulnerable. "We're not ready for this," someone said quietly. Admiral Carter's eyes flashed. "Then we get ready, fast." "Ben, be realistic," a council member argued. "It took us 20 years to build what we have. We can't match their numbers or technology in time to save those colonies." "So what do you suggest?" Carter snapped. "We abandon 160,000 of our own people? We let those aliens kill them without consequence? We show the entire galaxy that humans can be slaughtered without response? I'm suggesting we need to think strategically about survival," the council member shot back. "If we send everything we have and lose, Earth becomes vulnerable." The argument escalated, voices rising, anger and fear mixing into chaos. Eric listened to it all, his mind racing through scenarios and consequences. Finally he stood and the room fell silent. "Enough," he said quietly. The single word carried absolute authority. "Everyone out except Admiral Carter, General Grant, and Dr. Torres." The room cleared quickly. When only 4 people remained, Eric sat down heavily in a chair. "Tell me the truth," he said. "All the ugly truth that you didn't want to say in front of the council." Admiral Carter and General Grant exchanged glances. Then Ashley spoke. "Mr. President, those colonies are probably lost. Even if we sent everything now, it would take weeks to get there. The Vorzon will have fortified their positions by then. It would be a bloodbath." Eric closed his eyes. "And if we do nothing?" "Then 40,000 becomes 160,000, Ben said bluntly. "And the Vorzon learn that they can hit us without consequence. They'll keep coming. Eventually they'll hit Earth. What are our options?" Dr. Megan Torres finally spoke. She was a small woman with black hair and intense eyes, head of Earth's advanced weapons research. Most people didn't know her name or her work, and that was intentional. She had been quiet during the briefing, but now she leaned forward. Mr. President, I need to tell you about some programs that have been running for the past 15 years. Black budget projects that even most of the military doesn't know about. Projects that Admiral Carter and I have been overseeing in case first contact didn't go the way we hoped. Eric looked at Ben, who nodded grimly. Go on, Eric said. What Megan described over the next 30 minutes changed everything. While humanity had been building exploration ships and diplomatic facilities, a small group of scientists and military planners had been preparing for the worst. They had developed weapons systems that would have been considered aggressive and unnecessary in peacetime. Kinetic weapons that could punch through energy shields. Plasma cannons based on reverse-engineered alien technology from old crash sites that the public didn't know about. AI-controlled defense networks that could coordinate fleet actions with inhuman precision. And ships. Dozens of warships hidden in construction facilities throughout the solar system, designed to look like cargo vessels or mining equipment until they were needed. You've been building a war fleet, Eric said slowly, without authorization from the Council. With authorization from President Hammond, your predecessor, Ben corrected. She saw what I saw, that we couldn't trust the galaxy to be friendly. That hope wasn't enough, that we needed the ability to protect ourselves. She gave us black budget funding and told us to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Why wasn't I informed when I took office? Because you were elected on a platform of peaceful expansion, Ashley said bluntly. President Hammond didn't think you'd continue the programs. She made Ben and Megan promise to keep them running quietly until they were needed. Eric should have been furious, but instead he felt something like relief. They had options. Terrible options, but options nonetheless. How long until these weapons and ships can be deployed? He asked. The weapons systems can be installed on existing ships within 72 hours, Megan said. The hidden warships can be activated and crewed within a week. And we have something else, something that might give us an edge. She pulled up technical specifications on the display. We call it the Hellstorm Protocol. It's an AI-controlled swarm of small ships, each carrying kinetic weapons and explosives. They're cheap to build, fast and deadly. One ship isn't much of a threat, but 1,000 of them coordinated by AI, moving in patterns no biological mind could predict. They could overwhelm even a superior force. How many can you build? Eric asked. We have 5,000 ready. We can build more, but it takes time. Eric stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth turned peacefully below, unaware of what was coming. Billions of people going about their lives, trusting their leaders to keep them safe. The weight of that trust had never felt heavier. He turned back to the others. Here's what we're going to do. Admiral Carter, activate the war fleet. Crew them with volunteers and get them ready to move. General Grant, I want every military installation on full alert. And start running combat drills. Real combat, not exercises. Dr. Torres, install your weapons on every ship we have. I don't care if it's a science vessel or a cargo hauler. If it can fly, I want it armed. Yes, sir, they all replied. And prepare the Hellstorm Protocol. All 5,000 units, Mr. President, Ben said carefully. Once we deploy these assets, there's no going back. The Vorzan will know we were preparing for war. It will undermine any future diplomatic efforts. The Vorzan killed 40,000 of our people without warning, Eric said coldly. They attacked civilians. They attacked children. There won't be any diplomatic efforts. There will be a reckoning. He walked to the communications panel and activated the system that would broadcast to every human settlement, every ship, every station in known space. This is President Eric Dalton. By now, many of you have heard reports about attacks on our colonies. I am here to confirm that those reports are true. The Vorzan Collective launched unprovoked attacks on New Terra, Haven, Prosperity, and Freedom Point. Thousands of our people have been killed. Thousands more are in danger. The Vorzan have demanded that we surrender, that we abandon our homes and submit to their authority. He paused, letting the words sink in throughout human space. Here is our answer. We tried peace. We came to the stars with open hands and open hearts. We believed that intelligence and civilization. The stars had never seemed so close. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Horizon Dawn, watching the view screen display thousands of points of light against the black canvas of space. His ship had traveled farther than any human vessel before it, crossing into a region of space that no one from Earth had ever seen. The year was 2247, and humanity was finally ready to meet its neighbors among the stars. Jake was a tall man with dark hair starting to gray at the temples. He had spent 20 years in Earth's exploratory fleet, but this mission was different. This time they were not alone. The sensors had picked up something 3 days ago, something that made every scientist on board hold their breath with excitement. Artificial signals, structured communications, intelligence. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission," said Lieutenant Amy Chen from her station. She was young, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her fingers moved across the console with practiced ease. "The pattern is repeating. I think they're trying to establish a common language protocol." Ambassador Nicole Warren stepped forward. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a neat style. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, studying xenolinguistics and diplomatic protocols for species that humanity had only imagined. Now those years of preparation would finally mean something. "Can you establish a response pattern?" Nicole asked, her voice steady despite the excitement Jake could see in her eyes. "Already on it, Ambassador," Amy replied. "I'm using the mathematical sequences we prepared. If they're anything like we theorized, they should recognize prime numbers and basic geometry." Admiral Ben Carter stood near the back of the bridge, his arms crossed over his chest. He was older than Jake, a veteran of the resource conflicts that had nearly torn Earth apart 50 years ago. His face was weathered and serious, marked by years of difficult decisions. Unlike everyone else on the bridge, he did not look excited. He looked cautious. "Captain Morrison," Ben said quietly, "I recommend we maintain defensive positions. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." Jake nodded. "Agreed, Admiral. But let's not forget why we're here. We came in peace, and that's the message we need to send." The bridge fell silent as Amy worked. Minutes passed like hours. Then suddenly the view screen changed. The stars disappeared, replaced by an image that made everyone gasp. It was a face, but not a human face. The being on the screen had smooth, blue-tinted skin and large eyes that seemed to glow with inner light. Its head was elongated, and it had no visible nose, just small slits where a nose might be. When it opened its mouth, they could see rows of small, sharp teeth. "This is remarkable," Nicole whispered. "They're using visual communication. They want us to see them." The alien being made sounds, a series of clicks and melodic tones that the computer immediately began analyzing. After a moment, text appeared on the screen below the alien's image. The computer had found patterns in the sounds and was attempting translation. "Greetings, travelers. We are the Vorzan Collective. You have entered our space. Identify yourselves." Jake felt his heart racing. This was it. First contact. The moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. He stepped forward, straightening his uniform. "Open a channel, Lieutenant Chen," he said. "Channel open, sir." Jake took a deep breath. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Horizon Dawn, representing Earth and the United Human Territories. We come in peace, seeking friendship and understanding with the intelligent species of the galaxy. We mean no harm and respect your sovereignty in this region of space." They waited. The alien on the screen tilted its head, a gesture that seemed almost human in its curiosity. Then it spoke again, and this time the translation came faster. "Humans, we have not encountered your species before. You are far from your home star. Why do you travel so far?" Nicole stepped beside Jake. "May I, Captain?" Jake nodded and stepped back. Nicole faced the screen with confidence. "We travel to learn," she said clearly. "We seek knowledge, friendship, and peaceful cooperation with other intelligent beings. We have much to offer and much to learn. We hope that we can establish positive relations between our peoples." The alien was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, its mouth curved upward in what might have been a smile. "Peace is good. The Vorzan Collective values cooperation. You will follow our vessel to our outpost station. We will talk more there. Is this acceptable?" Nicole looked at Jake, then at Admiral Carter. Ben's expression remained stern, but he gave a slight nod. "It's acceptable," Nicole said. "We will follow." The transmission ended. The bridge erupted in excited chatter. Scientists and officers congratulated each other, their voices filled with joy and relief. They had done it. Humanity had made peaceful first contact with an alien species. Only Admiral Carter remained quiet. Jake noticed and moved to stand beside him. "You don't look happy, Ben," Jake said quietly. "I'm cautious," Ben replied. That thing smiled at us, Jake. It knew what a smile meant. How? Jake frowned. Maybe it's a universal expression of friendliness. Maybe, Ben said. Or maybe they've encountered other species before. Species that smile. And if they have, where are those species now? Before Jake could respond, Amy called out, "Captain, we have a navigation beacon. They're showing us the way to their station." "Follow it," Jake ordered. "But keep our shields at standby and sensors at full range. I want to know everything about that station before we get there." The Horizon Dawn changed course, following the Vorzon beacon deeper into unexplored space. Through the view screen, they could see the Vorzon ship ahead of them. It was larger than the Horizon Dawn, with smooth curves and a strange organic look to its design. Blue lights pulsed along its hull in hypnotic patterns. Over the next few hours, they traveled together. The crew worked to learn everything they could about their new neighbors. Dr. Kevin Park, the ship's xenobiologist, was particularly excited. Ambassador Warren, "Look at this," Kevin said, displaying images on his tablet. He was a short man with glasses and an enthusiastic manner that made him seem younger than his 40 years. "I've been analyzing the visual data from the transmission. The Vorzon appear to be carbon-based, like us. Their physiology suggests they evolved in a similar environment. This could mean we can actually visit each other's worlds without extensive life support." "That's wonderful news, Doctor," Nicole said warmly. "It will make cultural exchange so much easier." "If they want cultural exchange," Ben muttered from his position. Nicole turned to him. "Admiral Carter, I understand your caution, but we can't approach every new species with suspicion. We have to give them the benefit of the doubt." "I don't have to give anyone anything until they earn it," Ben replied. "I've seen what happens when you trust too quickly. People die." "That was war between humans," Nicole said gently. "This is different. These are beings from another world. They have their own civilization, their own culture. We have to believe that intelligence and civilization lead to peace." "Do we?" Ben asked. "Because human history suggests otherwise." Jake stepped between them. "Both of you have valid points. Nicole will proceed with diplomatic protocols and open minds. Ben will also maintain proper security measures, agreed?" They both nodded, though neither looked entirely satisfied. The Vorzon station appeared ahead of them like a massive flower made of metal and light. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest human space station. Hundreds of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. The sight was breathtaking and intimidating in equal measure. "They're giving us docking coordinates," Amy reported. "Take us in," Jake ordered. "Nice and slow. Let's not give them any reason to be nervous." The Horizon Dawn approached the station carefully. As they got closer, they could see other alien ships of different designs. Some looked similar to the Vorzon vessel, while others were completely different. Blocky, crystalline, shapes that seemed impossible. "There are multiple species here," Kevin said, his voice filled with wonder. "The Vorzon aren't alone. This is some kind of alliance or collective. Just like their name suggests," Nicole smiled. "Even better. If they've formed peaceful alliances with other species, then they've proven they can cooperate with beings different from themselves." The docking procedure took another hour. Finally, they received permission to send a delegation aboard the station. Jake selected a small team: himself, Nicole, Ben, Amy, and Kevin. They would be humanity's first representatives to an alien civilization. As they prepared in the airlock, Ben checked his sidearm one more time. It was a standard energy pistol, designed to be non-lethal at low settings but capable of defense if needed. "Hoping you won't need that," Jake said. "Hope isn't a strategy," Ben replied, "but I'll keep it holstered unless absolutely necessary." The airlock opened and they stepped into a corridor that was both familiar and alien. The walls were smooth and slightly luminescent, casting a soft blue glow. The gravity felt close to Earth normal, and the air had a faint sweet smell like flowers they couldn't identify. A group of Vorzon waited for them. The one in front was taller than the others, wearing what appeared to be formal clothing in deep purple colors. When it spoke, a small device on its chest translated the words into English. 6 months had changed everything. What began as cautious optimism had grown into genuine hope for the future. The Vorzon Collective had opened 3 more stations to human visitors, shared star charts of safe travel routes, and even begun teaching humans their trade languages. Ambassador Nicole Warren had been right. Intelligence and civilization did lead to peace, or so everyone believed. Governor Lisa Hayes stood in her office overlooking New Terra Colony, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of purple and orange. This world was beautiful, with vast oceans and continents covered in strange vegetation that reminded her of Earth's forests, but with colors that seemed impossible. 40,000 humans called this place home now, and more arrived every month. They were farmers, scientists, teachers, and families looking for a fresh start among the stars. Lisa was proud of what they had built. The colony had been established only 2 years ago, but already they had thriving agriculture, 3 small cities, and schools where children learned about both Earth and their new home. She was a woman in her early 40s, with red hair and freckles that had darkened under New Terra's sun. She had left a comfortable position on Earth to come here because she believed in humanity's future among the stars. Governor Hayes, "The Vorzon delegation has arrived," her assistant announced through the intercom. Lisa smiled. "Excellent. I'll meet them at the landing pad." The Vorzon had requested permission to visit New Terra 3 weeks ago. They wanted to establish what they called a cultural exchange post, where humans and Vorzon could learn from each other directly. The Earth Council had debated the request carefully. Admiral Carter had advised caution, but Ambassador Warren had argued passionately in favor. In the end, the Council approved it. After all, 3 other colonies had received similar requests, and refusing would send the wrong message. Lisa took a transport to the landing pad on the edge of the main city. A crowd had gathered to see the alien visitors, children pressing against barriers with wide eyes, adults chattering excitedly. It was a celebration, a historic moment for New Terra. The Vorzon ship descended smoothly, larger than Lisa had expected. When the ramp lowered, a dozen Vorzon emerged, led by one wearing elaborate robes marked with symbols Lisa didn't recognize. But something felt wrong. The Vorzon weren't smiling. Their large eyes scanned the crowd with an intensity that made Lisa uncomfortable. "Welcome to New Terra," Lisa said, approaching with an extended hand. She had learned that the Vorzon understood this human gesture. The lead Vorzon looked at her hand but didn't take it. Instead, it spoke in its clicking, melodic language. A translation device rendered the words in flat, emotionless English. "Where are your defense systems?" Lisa blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your weapons. Your shields. Your military installations. Where are they?" "We're a colony world," Lisa explained, feeling a knot forming in her stomach. "We have basic security for law enforcement, but we're not a military installation. This is a civilian settlement." The Vorzon made a sound that the translator didn't interpret. Then it said something that made Lisa's blood run cold. "That makes this easier." The Vorzon raised a device and the world exploded into chaos. Energy weapons fired into the crowd. People screamed. Children cried. Lisa dove behind a concrete barrier as blue plasma bolts tore through the air where she had been standing. The Vorzon ship opened hatches, and more armed aliens poured out, firing systematically at anyone who moved. "This is Governor Hayes to all stations," Lisa shouted into her communicator, hands shaking. "We are under attack. The Vorzon are attacking. I repeat, this is not a drill. We are under attack!" Around her, security officers were trying to return fire, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Their simple stun weapons did nothing against the Vorzon's energy shields. Lisa watched in horror as officer after officer fell, their weapons useless against technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. "Fall back," someone shouted. "Get the civilians to the shelters!" Lisa ran with the fleeing crowd, helping an injured woman who had been grazed by plasma fire. Behind them, more Vorzon ships were landing. The sky was filling with them, dozens, maybe hundreds. This wasn't just an attack on the landing pad. This was an invasion. In orbit above New Terra, Colonel Ryan Mitchell watched his worst nightmare unfold on the tactical display. He was the defense coordinator for the outer colonies, stationed on the defense platform Guardian 1. His job had been considered mostly ceremonial until 5 minutes ago. Now it was life or death. "Sir, we're getting distress signals from all 4 colonies," his tactical officer reported, her voice tight with stress. "New Terra, Haven, Prosperity, and Freedom Point, all reporting Vorzon attacks. All requesting immediate assistance." Ryan felt ice in his veins. He was a military man, 45 years old with close-cropped gray hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. But inside he was screaming. All 4 colonies. At the same time, This was coordinated. This was planned. "How many ships do we have in range?" he demanded. "3 patrol vessels, sir. The rest of the fleet is scattered across the sector." 3 ships against what looked like hundreds of Vorzan vessels. It was suicide. But those were human civilians down there, families, children. Deploy all 3 ships. Tell them to evacuate as many civilians as possible. And get me a direct line to Earth. Now. "Sir, Vorzan forces are jamming long-range communications." "We can't, then send a courier ship," Ryan roared. "Earth needs to know what's happening here." On New Terra's surface, Lisa had made it to the government emergency bunker. Around her, terrified colonists crowded into spaces meant for half their number. Children sobbed. Adults tried to stay calm but failed. Everyone knew they were trapped. "Can we contact the other colonies?" Lisa asked her communications officer. "Negative, Governor. The Vorzan are jamming everything. Local communications only, and even those are spotty." Lisa pulled up what data she could. The news was bad. The Vorzan had landed forces near all 3 major cities. They had taken the spaceport, the power stations, and the water treatment facilities. They weren't just attacking. They were occupying. An explosion shook the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. Someone screamed. "They're targeting government buildings," a security officer said grimly. "They know exactly where to hit us." Lisa's mind raced. The Vorzan had been here for months, she realized. Not physically, but their ships had visited. Their sensors had mapped everything. Every building. Every resource. Every weakness. The cultural exchange had been reconnaissance. They had smiled and asked questions and learned exactly how to destroy them. Another explosion, closer this time. The lights flickered and went out, replaced by emergency red lighting that made everything look like a nightmare. "Governor," the communications officer said quietly, "I'm picking up a transmission. It's getting through the jamming somehow. It's from space. Put it on speaker." Static filled the bunker, then a voice broke through. It was Colonel Mitchell. "This is Colonel Mitchell to all colony personnel. Listen carefully. I'm transmitting this on all frequencies in hopes someone hears it. A courier ship has been dispatched to Earth. Help is coming, but you need to survive until it arrives. The Vorzan are broadcasting demands. They want you to surrender. They're promising to spare civilians if you comply." Lisa closed her eyes. Around her, people were looking at her, waiting for her to make the decision that would determine if they lived or died. "What are the demands?" she asked into the communicator, not knowing if anyone could hear her. As if in answer, a new voice came through the speakers. It was Vorzan, translated into cold mechanical English. "Humans of the colony worlds, this is High Commander Zelthrak of the Vorzan Collective. Your intrusion into our space has been tolerated long enough. You will immediately cease all operations beyond your home star system. You will provide tribute of resources and technology. You will submit to Vorzan authority. If you comply, civilian casualties will be minimized. If you resist, we will destroy every human settlement outside of Earth. You have 12 hours to surrender." The transmission ended. The bunker was silent except for the sound of someone crying. Lisa stood up, her legs shaking but her voice steady. "We're not surrendering." "Governor," someone started. "They attacked without warning," Lisa cut them off. "They killed civilians. They killed children. If we surrender now, what's to stop them from doing whatever they want to us anyway? No, we hold out. We survive. And we wait for Earth to respond." She hoped Earth's response would come in time. She hoped humanity had the strength to fight back against an enemy so much more powerful. She hoped, but hope was all she had. In space, Colonel Ryan Mitchell watched as his 3 patrol ships engaged the Vorzan fleet. They were outgunned and outmatched, but they were buying time for civilian transports to escape. He watched ship after ship fall, brave men and women sacrificing themselves to save others. "Sir, the courier ship has jumped to faster than light," his tactical officer reported. "It's away clean." "Good," Ryan said quietly. "At least Earth will know what happened here." On the tactical display, the Vorzan fleet was reforming. They had destroyed the patrol ships. Now they were turning their attention back to the colonies. Ryan had no illusions about what would happen next. Without reinforcements, the colonies would fall. The only question was,